Epstein and Supreme Court Justice Roberts initially would have met, or how that relationship would have developed?
How they would have met? I think he met when he was under Bush, not too long after he was appointed. Somewhere along there, just a basic meeting powerful people, something like that. He did help him with his adopted children. From what was said there and what was, discussed openly in this little dirty trick squad, the children are not genetically brother and sister, but they're raised that way, so that's more valuable to them. One, if not both, were originally from Wales, but they were in the Epstein channels and were easily removed from their version of foster care to Ireland, which has much more open adoption type records. And he facilitated this for Robert so he could adopt them both at the same time. There's a little gap, but it was just paperwork. And that was him. Epstein had done that for him. So they had met, they had worked together, and he was doing favors at some point.
Was this something the Supreme Court Justice Roberts would have paid for, or is this a favor exchange to Epstein to link up with these children? Or
I don't know at that point. It's possible it could be either one. I don't think there would be a payment at that point. It's more for his position. There would be something in type of favor, but I don't know either one that was done. He facilitated it. Was there payment? Was it favor? I can't say.
Okay. Can you go into any more details on Supreme Court Justice Roberts with these children and the circles that he ran in, as far as you're aware?
Children are often used as a commodity, a way to buy yourself into certain inner circles. And these people are all wealthy, they're all powerful, and they won't trust you unless you're as compromised as they are. So you provide children to them. Your children, adopted children, whatever. This is how they trust you. You're as dirty as they are. You cannot be exposed because you can't expose them. They can't expose you. If everybody's just as dirty, you're safe. And I said this is a way for them to buy their way into these inner circles and get access to whatever. The children are the payment and the dirt and the control.
Now, who else would we want to talk to, or is there any additional documentation that we could pursue to solidify what you're saying here today?
The FBI has copies of the videos from the FISA surveillance. It was discussed, but I can't prove it, that Roberts had a copy. Rod Rosenstein certainly has a copy. Sean Henry of CrowdStrike, who was FBI at the time, he took 2 copies back to the FBI with him. So the copies were made, and then it was actually Sean Bridges who encrypted them and gave them the keys. So there are copies out there.
And who would be on these tapes, most likely, as far as from your conversations in the trick squad?
From just those tapes, I was talking about the copies. That would be Roberts, or excuse me, those would be Pence and his 2 lovers and the younger ones. They were also, they would do the same thing, illegal surveillance, or sometimes vice versa. This was mostly in the country, illegal surveillance with Robert's children and whomever they were with. They'd set it up. They knew that they weren't going to be exposed because it's Chief Justice Roberts' children. And please keep in mind that these children have been abused since birth and don't want anything else happening. They've already lived through hell. They don't need anything else. But they were, again, loaned out for these different groups, and they did surveil many of them.
Okay. Now, you also have said in past discussions that there was a plot that Roberts was allegedly a part of, where they discussed murdering other judges on the Supreme Court under a Hillary Clinton administration. Could you give me some amplifying details on that?
This is something the FBI had set up under their guidance from the political people. Going to be a false flag. This has gone out 2 years almost before the election. And it was a sovereign citizen group. Obama did not want any terrorism unless it was white terrorism. So this is a sovereign citizen group that the FBI had infiltrated and armed and instigated against other targets. They were, for the most part, pro-America, but they were racist in some of their origins. They were, a lot of them were divorced fathers with a grudge against the court system anyway, and the FBI people had infiltrated and exploited this. They moved them up to the level of assassinating federal judges, political people, things like that. If you want the names, I can tell you. So anyway, part of their plot was various types of attacks on the Supreme Court to take out as many judges as they could. Roberts was aware of this. He actually provided some scheduling. So apparently the justices are not all there at one time. They come and go as they please. And these three will be working on something, these three. And he provided this to the group so they could finalize their plans. They were very, very close in what they were trying to do. They were given explosives, all types of automatic weapons. They had rocket launchers. And they were very close to it. They were going to assassinate FDNS sailors, a federal judge in Massachusetts, Martha Coakley, Lisa Monaco and her family. They were going to make that look like a home invasion and film it until later when they needed it. And this was their initial attack plan, and then the Supreme Court. This was a group I'd infiltrated on their request. And when I found out what they were doing, that they were going to attack these judges, when they were going to attack the Supreme Court, I tried to end run them. I had minders, people kept tabs on me. I had FBI minders, but I tried to end run them and expose it. And I took all the evidence. I went to Homeland Security, who were overwhelmed and called in the FBI. And then the DOJ came right back on me, and they picked me up just a few weeks later when they found out who I was. And but the damage to their plots had been done. They did get close to assassinating people up there. Lisa Monaco, the judge, were under 24/7 security. Martha Coakley had in-state security. And it did prevent them from going after the Supreme Court, although their plans were all out. They had maps, they had the weapons, they had everything planned. So at least it prevented something like that.
Now, were the teams that were supposed to do the actual operations against the judges, were those Americans or were they foreign?
No, these are Americans.
Okay.
A third would be the sovereign citizen group, and 2/3 would be FBI people, or people working with the FBI. They were going to get rid of them anyway. They actually, I had recordings of when they were planning. They're on the phone with me as part of this group, and then they did not hang up the phone. They did not kill the phone, and we were listening to them talk about killing me and my wife, things like that. And another time they actually butt dialed me, and we're talking about, he was on the phone talking to various people and about their plans, about who they're going after and what they were going to do to us because we knew too much and we were outside at the time. So they could not do their plan. We got the people under surveillance. We saved them. I was given credit for saving them. They were very upset that their plans had gone to crap, were very upset with me, especially when they came and picked me up. But it stopped it. Their plans were written out. They had maps, they had surveillance, they had quite a bit of equipment.
What was the timeline that they were hoping to do this in?
This would be right after, within the first year of Hillary Clinton's presidency. She was not supposed to lose. So this was all planned up, and it was more than just that. It was twofold. They wanted to pack the court, take out as many as they could. Roberts was actually helping because he didn't want to be one of them, and he wanted some choice in who would be on the bench after that. He wanted to maintain some form of control. So he did provide information. But it was supposed to be done within the first year of Hillary Clinton's campaign so that they could ban firearms as well, and pack the court. So they had plenty of time to do that. That was their two main goals.
Do you believe the death of Anton Scalia was a part of this same plot, or do you know if that was a separate?
It was the same people. He was a backup plan. He was their biggest threat, being the most conservative justice. Justice Scalia, actually, I believe he found out about this, the plans, and he went to the White House like a week before his death. I believe he found out what they were trying to do. when they moved away from the overall attack of where these people lived, or they would attack around the holidays when more than one justice would be in their home, things like this. And again, Roberts was providing this, but they had to take him out. He was seen as their biggest obstacle. So the same basic group that was involved were given access to the ranch where he was found. They talked about how they did it. They had a couple different options, but it was discussed prior to his death, what they intended to do, where they could possibly do it, how they could do it, who they would need. The records are there at the Whistleblower Ranch. One person was brought in as, there was 3 men. One person was brought in as a temp worker. The other 2, same team, were brought in as servants from a group that was there hunting. And they discussed how it was done, that they used DIMSO, dimethyl suboxide, which is a fairly inert chemical, just goes through your skin. But if you mix it with a poison or a drug or something like that, it'll go directly into your system and overload you. I believe that's why he was found with the pillow over his face. He was struggling to breathe. He couldn't breathe, he was choking. And this particular chemical you can tailor to the person. If they have a drug problem, you can put fentanyl in it and overdose them. If they have a heart condition, it would take very little to go directly in. It'd be like a direct injection into the heart. Then they talked about how they did it, and Roberts is on the phone with these people discussing the successor. And he wanted a say in it because now it was only going to be one person. He wanted to pick that person, and he wanted a say in who was going to take it. And of course, there was a lot of people that were talking about Eric Holder taking it, all kinds of people. But he wanted a say in who was going to take over Justice Scalia's spot. And I don't think he got it. I mean, obviously it didn't happen because President Trump was here. But he did want it, and this was all prior to discussions and him complaining that he wasn't getting any say prior to his death, his sudden death. So it was well known. And
so aside from Roberts being waiting on this, did Rosenstein or anyone outside of the White House, had they been made aware of the plans, perhaps in Hillary's camp, that you could speak about?
Well, Hillary and Obama knew about it. I mean, it was supposed to be done under her watch, her first term, so that they could pack the court. They were fully aware of it. Rod has an intense hatred of Hillary, even though he worked with him when he had to. He's not fond of Obama, really. He's only fond of himself. But this was plans that they enacted through them, and Rod was integral in running the Hammer system through Baltimore,